But your bullseye should be 20. And the reason I picked 20 is because if I take a typical monthly calendar and I cut off the weekends, how many business days are there left? About 20. About 20. And so if I can pick the 20 people that want my success almost as much as I want it myself, it's Cindy and Bill and Anthony and Joe and Rick. And if I put a name on each of those boxes in the calendar, and on that day, I reach out and make sure that I talk to my friend Bill. And here's the good news, Bill. Because you're in my bullseye, I don't need to make the call sound like this. Hey, Bill, it's Sean with Coldwell Banker. Hey, any real estate leads for me today?
You're listening to the Real Estate Sessions, and I'm your host, Bill Risser. With nearly 25 years in the real estate business, I love to interview industry leaders, up-and-comers, and really anyone with a story to tell. It's the stories that led my guests to a career in the real estate world that drives me into my 9th year and nearly 400 episodes of the podcast. And now, I hope you enjoy the next journey. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 401 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. We've got something new today. We're calling it Quick Cuts with Carp. And you know who I'm talking about. That's Sean Carpenter. Sean Carpenter is a Coldwell Banker agent out of Columbus, Ohio, but also a nationally recognized and acclaimed speaker. Sean speaks. We're going to talk about his tour here on the second half of 2024. But he travels all over the country with associations and brokerages and anyone who really needs conversation about how to build relationships, solve problems, and have fun, because that is Sean's motto. So my thoughts are, as I kind of head towards July of 2025 and wrapping up the real estate sessions, is maybe bring Sean in monthly or on some cadence where we can talk about different things. Of course, we'll always talk about real estate. And I know sports might work its way in there, but there are a lot of other topics we can cover. It'll be fun. Maybe it's some music, maybe it's travel, maybe it's our kids. It could be a lot of different things. So we'll have some fun with this. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get this thing going. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. It's always good to be with you and get to listen in on the conversation in real life.
I have to ask you this question. You've listened to every episode. Will you listen to this episode when it comes out?
Oh yeah, I listen to every episode, and so
you're going to see if I make some weird edits and AI some stuff in there, because I've been playing with things, Yeah,
I'll listen to it, and then I always just sometimes you say something that you didn't remember you said, and sometimes it sounds good, and sometimes you say I could have said that different.
Well, yeah, maybe it's it's a little feedback loop thing you can use, right? Especially because of what you do for a living, to be honest. So it's not a bad thing. First of all, I'm in this last year of the podcast. I made that announcement. I'm just kind of, I want to do something different. I'm not even sure what that is yet. In fact, we'll chat about this first. I would love to do like a deep dive narrative style podcast into someone really cool in the business doing something neat, where I get to interview people around that person, and I get to, kind of put together a 6-part series, right? 6 1-hour episodes about and you know what I'm talking about. That's the kind of podcast that we all listen to, right? It's just called narrative. It'd be really fun. It's a lot of work. It wouldn't, it's something where it would take 6 months maybe to build, and then you get to release it and see how it goes. And so we'll see. That's kind of
the guys at Golf Digest do a great job with that. They'll pick one specific tournament or one specific rivalry or one specific story that you didn't really know about, and then they kind of dig into the stories. And I think you'd be good at that, Bill, because you are naturally curious with your guests, and to find out the stories, and then maybe get some voices from their spouse or their manager or their first customer. That would be really neat.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So that's where I think I'm headed. We'll see. But look, you've been around since day one. You've heard every episode. I think you're guest number 5, and then you're guest number this, that, and this. I don't have it in front of me. So you've been on here a lot with me. We've done a lot of cool stuff live even. So I thought I might. My goal here is I might bring you in a few more times through this season, just to let's talk about what's going on in the real estate space, and then of course we can always talk about what's happening in our lives and that kind of stuff too. So the first thing, what I'd love to start with is, you have been extremely busy, because we're in a couple of threads in different places on the internet. I know when you're headed off, you're on another flight to somewhere. Give me a breakdown I guess it feels like it started in the summer. Like you got really busy. Am I right? Or is that,
Yeah,
I'll let you
the real estate industry, typically a lot of the conferences and conventions are either in the spring or in the fall, right? The summertime, traditionally the kind of the busier months for real estate, not a whole lot of conferences there. So that allowed me to kind of stay focused on either building up my real estate business here in Central Ohio or doing a lot of coaching and getting ready for a busy fall season. Then, really, I think when the Florida Realtor Conference was one of the first ones, early August, and that sort of kicked off, I think, like a 9 or 10 week run where I was either in one or two cities at any given moment. And it's a ton of fun, but it's a lot of travel. People always ask, does my wife like it when I travel? And I said, she loves it. We love getting the Marriott points and the frequent flyer points, but it is a change when you're home for a week or two without any travel, because, you just get back into that flow of, shopping and being around. But it's been great. I've been at state conventions like Florida and Ohio Realtors and Virginia and Minnesota. And I've been at small conferences like Fredericksburg, Association of Realtors, and individual companies like in Memphis, or a bar camp in South Bend, Indiana. So it's a nice mixture of size of events, but the topics and the content is sort of from my library of sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the number in the library up to now? I know you've had to build a couple this last year. You've created a couple new sessions.
Yeah, I have probably about 19 or 20 different sort of off the shelf sessions, but then depending on the audience and depending on the length of time is sometimes the thing that changes it, right? If they want a 3-hour keynote, or if they want a 1-hour keynote, I've done as little as a 30-minute, presentation, which is really difficult for me because, in some of my sessions, one of my sessions I did in Nebraska this year, it was a 2-day class, granted, but, each of the slide decks for each day was about 475 slides. So that, now that's a lot of building of a slide deck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so about 20, but then if I've been there before, I try and say to myself, what stories can I repeat and what stories wouldn't make sense to repeat, right? There's some that I think are some of my greatest hits, so to speak, my Fred story and my Marciano story. I consider those those would be on my greatest hits albums, because there are stories that you can hear again and enjoy hearing them. But then some of the content is, you want to make sure you're sharing new, fresh, relevant content. And so I'm always updating my slides, every session I do.
My favorite line of all time, without a doubt. And I've seen you present. I think I've seen you present more times than you've been on the show. How's that? Yeah. I've seen a lot of your stuff. My favorite line is, "Shit, it's Steve." I mean, I think that's anyone who's seen you present and knows that story will just instantly know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so.
and it's a funny one, and it's funny because it's it's a punchline that I know is going to work, and I can deliver it in a way that just like good comedians or good good keynote presenters they know that they're going to get that spot. So if I have anyone ever filming or doing something, I say, you want to film this story and be ready at this point to be focused on the audience. Yeah,
that's great. So can you do me a favor? Rattle off the cities you've been in since Florida. Just kind of read them all off. And this is we're only talking about August. We're talking 2 months basically.
Yeah. So I started. Let's see. I did Vegas. Then I was in Chattanooga, Starkville, Mississippi, Napa, California. Then I was in Orlando, Fredericksburg, Virginia, Columbus, Ohio, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Duluth, Minnesota, South Bend, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee. Just got back from Albany, New York. In between there was a couple trips to Nashville and Starkville to see Ryan at school. So it's been quite a busy fall. And then I got Detroit coming up in a few weeks. I just added Nashville. I'll go to Austin, Texas, and I might be heading over to Pittsburgh. So that'll finish out the year.
Wow, that's fantastic. You do take a break in December. You try, I take it.
Yeah, I do. And Ryan's going to graduate this year, so we'll head down to Starkville for his graduation, and
nice.
And then figure out when we're going to pull up the anchors and head down to our place in Florida.
Yeah, I'm sure Rhonda's already kind of scratching a little bit, going like, she's getting a little nervous, a little anxious. How long are we going to be here? We got to get down where it's warm.
Where it's warmer, yeah. So we're just getting into that fall weather here in Columbus. So it's a beautiful time of year. It's my favorite time of year. The leaves are changing colors. It's brisk in the morning. I'm playing golf later today, and there was a frost delay on the golf course today. You don't deal with frost delays down there.
No,
every once
we had
in a while,
one in the 7 years I've been here. Yeah, so It's not usually an issue. So, well, last thing about Sean Speaks, just everything you do there. We all know it's all about, building relationships, solving problems, having fun. But you have different presentations based on, what the desire is from usually the committee, right? That's bringing you in to speak. Was there something that was real popular or common or important this year, or is it still that same mix? Because a lot of times you get to kind of play in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah, when an organizer or a director of education or somebody reaches out to me and asks me to present, I usually try and talk about, is there a theme? Is there a overall message you're trying to deliver? Is it a breakout session? Is it a keynote? Who's the audience? And then identifying that. But my content, I sort of on purpose have stayed away from the AI side of the business, which is obviously there's a lot of good friends of ours that we know that do a great job of teaching AI and the technology side. And I also stayed away from the NAR settlement. I felt that was better handled by attorneys and brokers themselves, and teaching people that, because, much like with TRID and all those other changes our industry has had, the agents kind of get numb to the message, right? Whether that's good or bad, it's true that they just kind of get tired of it. Like, I think most of the people listening to this are tired of the political ads that are on TV nonstop these days. So my message has always been, and I think it hopefully will always be, the basics of how to build relationships and solve problems and have fun, right? The stuff that everyone in the room, whether they're a brand new agent or been in the business for 20 plus years, can leave that meeting and put into play that day, right? It's about earning trust, and it's about remembering people's names, and it's about, creating systems and having a database and having a sphere of influence and having, a client list and having a bullseye of people. And, Bill, I think back to how many webinars and podcasts did we do during COVID? Your database is your data bank, right? And we just kept drilling this in. So that's the thing I think I like. One of my favorite compliments I've got recently at the Florida Realtor Conference, a young girl waited in line to talk to me after my session, and she came up. She told me she was a newer agent, and she showed me her pages and pages of notes she took, which made me feel good that she was paying attention. I said, was there something that stood out to you? And she said, I think the thing you really impressed on me was you made the easy sound so easy. And that was such a great compliment, because it is easy. I think we make it harder than it is, thinking this can't be all there is to it, right? So you're telling me I just got to keep in touch with people in my audience and my community and be good at what I do and know my stuff and be confident and be competent. Yeah, that's how it works. And then it's a long tail wait. And then hopefully those people tell people, and those people tell people. And it's what I call the ripple effect, right? And if the ripple effect works, then you're doing a good job.
Can I steal one of your moments right now? Can I have you do a little smidgen of my favorite part of your talks?
Sure.
I want you to talk about the Bullseye. You don't have to go deep into it, all the other stuff, but I just want you to explain to people what that Bullseye is, because I think in not just real estate, as for realtors, in my role, talking to sales executives in the F&F world, it's important to them too. We all have, the key 20. So do you mind doing that?
So I look at people's business in 4 levels, right? You got your database, which is anyone you have contact information for. Then you go down a little bit the next level down is your sphere of influence. I know them and they know me, right? Everyone in my sphere of influence is part of my database, but not everyone in my database is part of my sphere of influence. Right. And below that, you got your clients, people that have done business with you in the past. And by definition, those people are part of your sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. Right? And then the most important level, that deepest level, is what I call your bullseye. And the definition is, these people want my success almost as much as I want it myself, right? This is your spouse or partner. It's your kids if they're, of legal age. It's your parents if they're still alive. It's your matron of honor from your wedding. It's those 3 guys you play golf with every Saturday. It's your tight circle. And I tell people, I don't care how many people in your database. No one's going to impress me when they tell me they have 40,000 people in their database, because I can just grab the phone book from Tampa and say I have 114,000 people in my database. That's just context. Your sphere of influence should be about 220 people. And the reason I picked that number in real estate is because there's 337 million people in the United States, Bill. There's 1.52 million realtors, which means there's one realtor for every 220 people, right? And so just playing the odds. Your clients are whatever it is, whatever the number is, and you should know that as a realtor because it's a business. But your bullseye should be 20. And the reason I picked 20 is because if I take a typical monthly calendar and I cut off the weekends, how many business days are there left? About 20. And so if I can pick the 20 people that want my success almost as much as I want it myself. It's Cindy and Bill and Anthony and Joe and Rick. And if I put a name on each of those boxes in the calendar, and on that day, I reach out and make sure that I talk to my friend Bill. And here's the good news, Bill. Because you're in my bullseye, I don't need to make the call sound like this. Hey, Bill, it's Sean with Coldwell Banker. Hey, any real estate leads for me today? See, right. I call Bill and I say, did you watch the game last night? Did you see that triple play in that game? Hey, are you going to be at the golf club this weekend? Hey, have you read the new John Grisham book? And I just have a conversation because all I'm trying to do is about every 20 days, make sure that my name pops up in the top of Bill's mind, right? And when you nurture those bullseye, if we're out at the pub tonight throwing darts, the bullseye is where you get the most points, right? And so, So many people, Bill, they say to me, well, if I just build a bigger target, then I'll get, no matter where I throw my dart, I'll hit the board. And I say, wait a second. So you want to build your business on strangers? See, if you picture a dartboard, the people on the outer ring, they might get your annual newsletter. The next ring in gets your annual newsletter, plus they're on your email newsletter campaign once a month. The next ring in gets that, plus your just listed, just sold cards. The next ring in gets that, plus invites to your quarterly happy hours. The next ring in gets that, plus personal calls on birthdays and anniversaries, right? And so the people in the middle get more of your time, effort, and money because they're the ones that gave you your time, effort, and money, right? And so the goal of your business is to push people, not to push people into your business. It's to be so good you're attracting people into your business.
For those of you listening, I'm going to tell you, I've heard that part of Sean's presentation live at least 10 times. And Sean, every time there's very little variation. You have this down. This is fantastic. So anyways, there you go. Everyone listening, that's, we stole a little bit of money from Sean, which is awesome.
No, but it's such a simple concept and I love sharing it. And when people see that, they're like, okay, yeah, that makes more sense to spend my effort in the middle because real estate's different every day, Bill. Start your day with the people in the middle and work your way out into your database. Yeah. Instead of starting your day out with people you haven't talked to in a long time, because then by the time you get to the people in the middle, you haven't talked to them in a long time. And so those are the ones you want to continue to treat well and keep in your bullseye. And look, if you can get your bullseye to 40 people, even better. If you get your bullseye to 60 people, think how good your business is if you have 60 people that want your success almost as much as you want it yourself.
3 calls a day, no big deal. Yeah, yep. And they're the easiest calls to make. So good. Sean, you mentioned baseball last night. We're recording this the day after the game 3 of the Yankees-Guardians series. You are an Ohioan. I know you weren't born there, and I know you don't live in Cleveland, but you definitely support the teams in the state of Ohio.
Yep.
How much fun was that game?
Oh, my gosh. Well, first of all, it's, fall baseball is great, right? I mean, you and I are sports fans. We would watch, the Diamondbacks play the Rockies. We're going to watch because just fall. There's something about fall baseball. There's something about playoff baseball, playoff hockey, playoff football. That every pitch matters, and it was such a, the fans there are so loyal. You go back to 2016 when it was Cubs versus Indians at the time, and two franchises that hadn't won in 80 years, and unfortunately the Cubs took it in Game 7, extra innings of Game 7.
Yeah,
but that fan base is so attached to that team, and it's not a team of huge payroll, and it's not a team that all the names of the batting rotations and the pitchers, but man, was it fun. And to see them take the lead, then give up the lead, then tie it with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the bottom of the 9th, and then win it in the 10th. It was just electric. And now you just hope that that magic continues into another game and another game and another game.
Yeah, I think there'll be much like the Cubs. Everyone was kind of pulling for the Cubs back in the day. I think the Guardians are going to take over that role. Yeah. There'll be a ton of people supporting them, even if they're, like for me, you're right. I'm listening to the names, and I'm an American League guy now because I live in an American League city, and I follow that much closer than I ever did before. And I was sitting there struggling with some of that. It's not our division. So that's part of it, but yeah, super cool. And I don't know. Do you know who the announcers were? I didn't. I couldn't picture their names and their voices because I came into the game.
I think it was Brian Hamilton or Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
And I saw the guys before the game, and it's 2 newer guys. It's not like it's not Smoltz and those guys, but it was but the electric. And then I sent you guys on the text. If you guys can find it, there's the guy who hit the home run to tie it. His last name is Noel, and they call him Big Christmas. He's a big guy.
Christmas.
And if you can find the radio broadcast from the Spanish radio, and they go crazy, and they're singing Feliz Navidad, and it's incredible. It was just fun to just watch social media and find all the videos of like apartment complexes near Progressive Field showing the fireworks and hearing the noise volume go up at the hit. So just electric time of year.
You don't hear them go that crazy usually. It was it was a lot of fun.
When you're in an environment, whether it's sales, whether it's sports, where you feel the energy, I think that's important, right? I mean, I talk to people about people see confidence and people hear confidence. Mm-hmm. But when people feel confidence coming off of you as a salesperson or a provider or a vendor, that's when you're earning that trust, because they feel your competence and your confidence, and if you can consistently deliver that, and that's where teams having that confidence can really start building momentum. Yep.
Well, I'm watching the clock because you've got work to do today. I've got some work to do today, but I have to bring this subject up, and that is, we got college football is, if you had to choose your favorite sport, I'm going to assume it's college football. That's the one you really follow, you really love, a Gator through and through, and an SEC guy, which is a unique world I've talked about many times.
Right.
SEC is different. I get it. Just what's your take on what's happening? One, we'll talk playoffs a little bit at the end, but I want to talk about what's happening in the SEC, where you got like the number one team in the country now is the SEC. That is not unusual. In fact, fairly expected, but it's Texas. And, they've got a big game coming up. We're recording this prior to the Texas-Georgia game. I will watch that game. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in this country who will watch that game. How do you, as a long time, 30, 40 years of an SEC guy, how do you handle a newbie like Texas coming in and having that success right away?
Well, I love having Texas and Oklahoma join the conference, right? Becoming a better conference, bringing in better teams. And it goes beyond the football landscape. I mean, think about, we're bringing in Oklahoma women's softball that's won 4 national championships in a row. We're bringing in Texas, swimming. We're bringing in, just some incredible programs and schools into the mix. But I got to tell you, man, it does hurt to see, a team that's new to the conference come in and possibly win the conference in their first year, right? And maybe win a national championship. Now, if they win a national championship, that'd be great, because it'd be another one on the SEC list, of numbers. But, when you just look at the richness of the conference, right? I mean, even this year, Vanderbilt is kind of a team to be reckoned with, right? Florida is struggling right now, but a team that, for the late 90s and early 2000s under Spurrier and Meyer, won 3 national championships. The good thing for me, Bill, is as a Florida fan is, baseball went to the, championship series 2 years ago. Basketball has won multiple, titles. We're back in the top 25 this year. Women's sports, is strong. So we have a good overall program, and that's what's fun to watch. But it will be challenging. Tomorrow night's game, that once again, people listening to this will know the outcome. But it's first time in 49 games that Georgia has been an underdog, right? Wow. Think about that. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia goes into Austin and wins that game, because as we say in the SEC, it just means more. And, and it's just, but then you got Alabama going to Tennessee on the 3rd Saturday in October. And you got, just Florida, Kentucky, and you got just some amazing games. And it's just it's a fun time of year. It is much different though, Bill. I mean, you got to admit that the college landscape with NIL and the portal and the 12-team playoff now, Ohio State losing last week to Oregon, they're still, in control of their own destiny. Absolutely. They beat Penn State in 2 weeks. They win the Big Ten championship. They're going to be in the playoffs, and they have a good chance of, advancing, because they're one of the better teams in the country.
It's radically changed the sport, in my opinion, right? I mean, it really feels it. You could almost call it a semi-pro league, right? Or a minor league, feeding into the NFL. It always was that to some extent. There's a draft and everything. That's what it was geared towards. But now you've got situations where someone like Shedeur Sanders in Colorado, he's making a ton of money on NIL stuff. And I'm sure his dad was a big help there. But it's millions of dollars in NIL money going to Shedeur. He doesn't really need the NFL that much right away, does he?
True, but look at someone like Florida State, who's at his third school, DJ Ungalele, right?
Yeah.
Who's getting millions of dollars and was a complete flop this year.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Got a lot of money at Clemson, went to Oregon State, got a lot of money, went to Florida State, and they thought, and now players on that team are thinking like, this guy's getting paid money and he's sitting on the bench now. And so it's but we look at this new landscape from a standpoint of football. But think about now with Stanford and Cal being in the ACC, all right? Great to see Stanford play Wake Forest in football. But what about the Cal swimming team that has to go to Charlottesville, Virginia now for a swim meet? Or the girls golf team from Oregon that has to go to Schenectady, New York to play a match against Rutgers. That's where the football better be, the top heavy football programs support a lot of the other programs in the athletic department.
Yeah.
And then that athletic department has to also raise money for NIL. It certainly is, as you said, a semi-pro league now. And I could really see, sometime in the near future where college football breaks off into its own animal. And
I think you're right. I think it has to almost be its own league, separate from the NCAA, whatever it is. It's like the fans still get to enjoy the rivalries. The fans get to take care of all the stuff they've done before. It's all good. It's just, it's got to work differently behind the scenes in the back. The engine that drives it's probably going to be a little bit different. But
and we see the impact. Right? You can go now Tuesday through Monday and watch a football game, right?
That's true. That's absolutely true. So. Real quick, the playoffs. Are you excited about it?
I am. Oh, I'm super excited. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is the on-campus round one, right? So teams 5 through 8 are going to host a home game, right? Nice. Versus the other teams. You got that small team right now. It looks like it's going to be Boise State. If the season ended today, Boise State, and can they make an impact? Can they upset a Penn State, or can they win at Columbus? Ashton Jonte, the Heisman favorite right now from Boise State, I'm excited about that. And it's kind of funny because you think teams 1 through 4, they get a bye, but boy, those programs sure would like to have a home game. I bet,
Yeah, they would. So I think they're good skipping a game though too.
I think they are too.
Nothing wrong with getting healthy.
That much closer. Now it will be interesting to see how these bowl games attendance is, because if you're let's just use Ohio State. If you're an Ohio State fan, are you going to pay to go to the Fiesta Bowl? And if they advance, you go to the Peach Bowl. And if they advance, you got to go to Dallas for the championship game. That's a lot of travel you're asking those fans to do. And so it's going to be interesting to see, what fan bases are really all in to travel multiple times.
I think regardless of the fan base, those games are going to be heavily in huge demand, I should say. Yes. I mean, I can't even imagine. Yeah. So that'll be it. Any tickets that the teams don't use will be gobbled up instantly, if not by locals, by scalpers.
Good time of the year to be a sports fan, for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Sean. So I'd like to do this. Maybe we do this, every, a couple months,
I'd love to.
It'd be a lot of fun to have you back in here and have you share some of your insight on a lot of different things. And so, we'll touch on maybe some music next time or something a little bit different. So
listen, let's sprinkle in real estate with whatever other topic you want. But I think as I say, the good thing about real estate is it's different every day. Bad thing is it's different every day. And so there's plenty to talk about, and we can talk about, what's working, what's not, technology tools, success stories, struggles, myths, things like that. So I'd love to jump in and chat with you.
Just if someone wants to find you, I'll always ask that. Where do they get you? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, SeanCarpenter.com is my, my site. Carpscorner.net, links to the same place. My blogs that I write, Bill, every Sunday night, I sit down at my laptop and I write a blog post that shows up in your inboxes on Monday mornings. It's called my Monday Morning Match. I'm coming up on my 1300th blog post next year. I don't think I've missed a Monday in, I think, 9 years. So it's
that's impressive. How tough is it? There had to be a tough one to write. Like now that you mentioned that, there had to be a Sunday night where you're like, oh no, I still got to do this.
Yeah. There are some days where so I come down and I try and get creative, and I look at, all right, what's tomorrow's date? What happened in history? What can what's that little thing that, can spark a message? And that's what's good, Bill, is it doesn't have to be a real estate post, right? It has to be about building relationships and solving problems and having fun. And so I find things, when I'm on my travels, or I find people on my travels that I can write about, or I find messages. Last week's post was, my mom got me a birthday card that I just thought had a pretty impactful message. And I sort of turned that into a this message it's going to be shared with a larger audience. And I got a lot of feedback on it, a lot of feedback from people saying this really meant a lot to me, or this hit me at the right time. And so that's a lot of fun. So SeanCarpenter.com. You can find me on the socials at Sean Carp on Instagram and Twitter or X, Sean M. Carpenter on Facebook. Type my name into the Google machines and add the word realtor or add the word Columbus, Ohio, and you'll probably find me.
There you go. Sean, this has been great. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll be talking soon and hopefully playing some golf soon when you get back down here. All right.
I'm heading out in about an hour to tee off on the Old Scarlet course.
Have fun. Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Sessions. Please head over to ratethispodcast.com/RE sessions to leave a review or a rating, and subscribe to the Real Estate Sessions podcast at your favorite podcast listening app.